Hey y'all, welcome back to the Insurance Lounge with me, Tanya.
Emmy, Christy.
We are your local agent out at Chattanooga, Tennessee. We are here to make insurance a little less boring and way more helpful for you. Our goal is to share with you what we know so that you feel more confident about how you can better protect your family, your home, your business, and most certainly your future. So, with that said, Christy, would you do the honor and kick us off for the week?
You bet, Tanya. So today we want to talk to you guys about, how do you select an agent? What are the characteristics and traits of that person or that agency? It's not just the agency owner who you need to be concerned about, really, right? It's like all the staff people in that agency. So what do you need to look for? How can you be sure that you're dealing with the right person?
Absolutely, because there are so many choices out there, right, Christy? There
Every
are,
corner.
yep, every and in every form of business model too, right? So not just local agencies, but there are companies, carriers that only work strictly over the phone or online, things
Online,
like that.
yeah,
So,
you bet.
but regardless, right, guys, whenever you're talking to an insurance agent, someone who's helping you setting up your policy, that's what we're talking about here today. So we have some tips for you that we want to share that can hopefully help you the next time you shop for insurance or trying to decide who you want to go with and who you want to be your personal agent.
Yeah.
So,
So
um,
beyond just the cool factor, right? Because obviously you want to deal with me and you, but not everybody
absolutely.
can.
And that's okay too, right?
We'll take it.
That's why we love this market, right? It's determined by the consumer. You get to pick who you want to work with, and we're all right with that. And we just want to make sure whoever you end up with, you picked an agent that works for you, works with you, and is there for you when you need them the most.
Right. And it's a personal decision and not every agent and every agency is going to be right for every person. So,
That's right.
um,
So the first thing though, I think we gotta stay with the basic, right? Because a lot of time with that old saying, Christy, is nobody cares what you know until they
until they know
know.
how much you care.
That's right.
You got
So
it.
so for us, the number one factor is you want an agent who actually cares. So what does that look like?
Yeah, to me, Tanya, that's, first and foremost that somebody just inherently cares about doing a good job. That and I some people are born with that and maybe you can train it into them, but you just, they're willing to work hard for you.
That's right. So, an example of that, for example, if you're calling in, whether it's for a new quote or for a service issue that you need assistance with, right? You want to look for uh, these things where, is the agent really actively listening to your concern? I think that's
Right.
number one. Are they brushing you off? Are they rushing through the conversation?
Yeah,
Because we believe that only if you truly listen to what the issue is, then you can ask the right questions,
exactly.
right? And
Yeah,
guys, just know that, especially if you're getting a new quote, you want your agent to ask you questions at the beginning because you want your agent to care enough to get to know you or your issue. Let's just
yeah,
say, they don't have to necessarily know how many kids you have and things like that, where you go on vacation for fun, but they should know, for example, like why are you wanting to switch insurance?
right. What are the problems you're trying to solve?
Absolutely. What are you calling about today? What's your pain point? What's your issue? Because then, if they understand what it is that you need, they can then best help you. So that
Right.
kind of go back to what Christy was saying earlier is somebody who cares to do a good job. If they care, they'll ask questions. They'll try to
Yeah,
understand the problem so that they can make sure that you have the best insurance experience with them. And now with that, then and that keep in mind that's just not at, when you're a new customer. That's just not when you are calling in for a service issue, but it could also come down to claim issues. It come down to billing issues,
yeah.
or you have very unique risks that you need to place, things like that. So with that said, that leads us to the second characteristic trait that we want to look for in an agent, Christy. And what is that?
Someone who's knowledgeable enough to be able to guide you to the right solution for the specific, if you, like you say, if you've got those unique risks that you need to place, or, the needs of my retired couple, who have accumulated assets over the last 60 years, that's very different from somebody who is, a college student even, or newly married and they're just starting out in their lives. So, to be able to guide a customer toward what do you need now and how does that need to grow for you as you move through, the life cycle of the policy and the life changes that you have.
Exactly. And that also comes down to, there's so many different insurance solutions because
Yeah,
not one size fit all for everybody when it comes to that, like what Christy was saying. So we want to make sure that, if the agent care to know what it is and they're knowledgeable, more than likely they can make a recommendation that would fit your need.
right.
Right. So one
Yeah,
example of that I ran into, and we can give, is there are certain agency that would have a certain process where this is the only thing we do in our agency and we don't do anything outside of that box. I know they're out there. I hear
I
people
know they
talk
are.
about it.
Yeah,
But just care, maybe it works for you, but for most of us, right? Because our lives change. As we age, we go through different stages in life. So we want to make sure we tailor our insurance policy so that it fits us at the time when we need it.
right, right. And I know what you're talking about, Tanya, and I know that those agencies, like you say, are out there. And I think the thought behind it is good, like give people the most protection. Sure. But to me, it's the most protection that's appropriate to your stage of life, not necessarily just the most protection, because that's different. What you need is different depending on where you are.
Absolutely. And those extra protection that you might or might not need does not come for free, guys. So we want to make sure that it fits us when we need it and we're not overpaying for something that we don't need. And that really leads us to the third point of what we'd want to share with you today is you want your agent to have honesty.
Absolutely. Yeah. Honesty, a willingness to engage in a conversation with you and give you the answers, whether they're the hard answers or the easy answers, whatever it is. Um, just having that innate, honest approach to communicating with you and guiding you through your needs. I didn't know what my insurance needs were before I became an insurance agent. So most people don't, but that's why they're looking for a professional who will be honest with them about what they need.
Exactly. And, to the point we were talking about earlier is you don't want to be overinsured, right? Because it's going to cost you all kinds of extra premium. You don't
Yep.
want to be insurance poor, but I think also also you want to have an honest conversation with an agent can that can be honest with you so that
Yeah.
you're not underinsured either
Well, right. Like I don't want to just sell you something, so I'm not going to strip out that coverage that you
and
might
not
need
tell you.
and not tell you about it because you don't know. So, the agent who is willing to be honest about what you need, even if it costs a little bit more, and maybe I risk, not making a sale because my price isn't right for you. But personally, I prefer to take that approach and be honest with somebody. This is the best thing. I've asked you the questions, I've gotten to know you a little bit enough to know what you need, and I have the knowledge to say this is my recommendation, and now I'm going to be honest enough with you to say, this is my recommendation and this is how much it costs. And if you can't afford that, then maybe a different, company is the best option for you. And we'll circle back around. Maybe we'll talk in another couple of years, but
Right.
you just got to be willing to tell people the truth.
Absolutely, and when it comes to that, because insurance, is I know is those things that you're required to have if you want to drive. You're required to have if you have a loan on your home. I get that, but there is a chance that you might have to use your insurance policy. So, let's say if you were to be underinsured on your auto insurance and you got into a really bad crash, but you make really good money and you had accumulated a good amount of asset that you want to make sure is protected. So,
Yeah.
really, you don't want to find out that way just because the agent want to make a sale at that time
Mhm.
and undersold you what you truly truly needed, or at least did they make you aware that that option is available to you,
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
right? You don't want your agent to be taking shortcuts because having a conversation is too much and explaining too much, right? So um, that then lead us to characteristic number 4, which
Right.
is
A good communicator, you know,
absolutely.
um, not just about how insurance works. I mean, that's the technicality of it, right? But somebody who's just engaging enough to be able to talk with you, who's available to talk with you. Like you talked about earlier, Tanya, there's all kinds of companies out there today who offer an online experience. And if that's what you want, then that's what you'll get as an online experience. There are going to be, likely to be times when you need to talk to somebody, and having somebody who's willing to answer the phone or get back to you if you have to leave a message, is critical when you're in that critical situation and you really need to talk to somebody.
Absolutely. You want an agent that is good at following through on what they
Mhm.
promise you. And
Yes.
also, I think as a professional, Christy, and you tell me if I'm wrong, but that person also needs to be someone who is good at following up with
Yes.
you,
You're absolutely
right?
right. You're not wrong.
So, yeah. So if you call in and you need help, and we understand your life is busy and you get pulled a million different ways, is your agent following up with you and making sure that, you're set up at the right time so that you get the
Yeah.
most discounts, for example, or,
Yeah. Hey, you were
following.
supposed to get back to me with your kid's report card for that good student discount. I don't have it yet. You're going to lose a discount. Give me a call. Give me that stuff. The follow through is important.
Absolutely. And then lastly, if all those 4 boxes checked off, so Christy, I talked to you and you sound like you're someone who cares about what I need. And, from working together, you really help me understand my insurance. You're knowledgeable, you're honest, and you're a good communicator. I can understand what you're saying and you always follow through, right? So that lead us to the fifth characteristic, which is
Yeah. Trustworthiness, right? And it's so at that point, like you say, all the other boxes check off. So it's a little bit of a gut feeling at that point, right? Do I trust this person? Do I trust this person that I'm not just catching them on a good day and, they gave me all the answers that I liked, but, are they going to, continue to give me this experience through the life of a policy and a relationship with them? Would I go into business with this person? Because really, I mean, that's kind of what you're doing.
absolutely, especially, you can really gauge that at new business, right? And is that person someone who is going to honor doing the right thing for all the right reasons, even when things are hard?
Even when nobody's looking? Yeah.
Yes, and even especially when no one is looking, right? So, does that person follow up with me when they needed to, things like that? Can I get a hold of them? Are they telling me the right thing, even though it's not something I want to hear,
Right.
right? So, an example of that is, when we work with our customer, especially um, someone who purchased their first insurance policy for the very first time, whether it's your auto insurance or home insurance or renter's insurance, we want to take the time to help educate you on how to use your insurance so that it works for you and that it protects you and that it can be there for you when you need it the most.
Right.
Not every agency or not every agent is willing to take the time to do that. And if they're not willing to take the time to do that with you at new business, you know,
Chances are, yeah, your service experience through the life, of the relationship is not going to be the best if they're not even willing to do it right at the point that they're trying to sell you something, right?
When we talk about the life of the policy, not just billing issues or service issues, or I need to add a car, or, I need extra coverage on my home, but also
Right? Life changes. We're growing. Now I'm getting married. Now I'm having children. I'm buying a bigger house. I'm accumulating more assets or vice versa. Oh my gosh. I made a bad decision and so now I need something else on my auto insurance. It can be a lot of things. Life goes a lot of different directions. And so that's when I say the life of the policy, that's what I'm really talking about is all the changes that we go through in our lives that can impact what we need, what our needs really are, and having that relationship with that agent helps them guide you to that. So that's why you really want to make sure you've checked all five of these boxes when you picked an agent, that they're going to be there with you through the changes that you experience.
absolutely. So let's do a quick recap, Christy. So when we're looking for an agent, what's the first thing we want to look for?
We're looking for somebody who cares.
Okay,
Just
so
you have that give
just a little
a
bit, just a little, care a little
just a
bit.
little.
And then also, we want to talk to someone who is knowledgeable, right? Because if they care and they're knowledgeable, they're going to be able to make the right recommendation that is going to fit your needs.
Right. Right. And number three, honesty. Somebody who's willing to tell me the truth, whether it's what I wanna hear or not.
Absolutely. And then, of
Yeah,
course, we want a good communicator. So, not someone who can talk to and make insurance easy to understand, but is also someone that you can get a hold of easily
you
that will
bet.
get back to you um, when you need help, right? Things like that.
Yep,
And of course, if all those four boxes are checked, then you gotta check your gut and see, is this someone who is trustworthy, someone who's willing to do the right thing for all the right reason, even when it's hard and even when no one is watching.
you bet.
So now, if you guys like what we had to share today, please like and subscribe. We'll put our link down on the bottom. If you're looking for a good agent and you want to check us out, you know how to contact Christy, you know how to contact me. And with that said, thank you for tuning back in. We look forward to seeing you next time.
Signing off.
Bye.